My name is Rabbi Shia Hecht. I'm the National Committee for the Furtherance of Jewish Education. And today I have the honor to talk on behalf of the Yizkor Foundation. Unfortunately, there are so many in this world who want to deny that the Holocaust ever happened. Well, it's true, everyone has family members who lived through the Holocaust and come and witness and tell their story. But it's organizations like the Yizkor Foundation that will memorialize and really document the things that happen for years to come, for tens and hundreds of years to come. People will see and know what happened. The Jewish calendar has days to commemorate everything. A day to commemorate freedom, a day to commemorate joy, a day to commemorate friendship, study, spirituality. And yes, we have a day in our calendar to commemorate sadness, pain, suffering, perhaps holocausts, and other terrible atrocities that happened to the Jewish people. The day is Tisha B'Av, the 9th day in the month of Av. This is a day that throughout history, if it was the Spanish Inquisition or other atrocities that took place, and many say that, yes, Second World War also started on the 9th of Av, a day that we so clearly remember because so many have come forth to testify. Yes, today, revisionists want to rewrite history and say it didn't happen. But organizations like Yizkor will tell us, yes, we will remember, because we have survivors who tell their story, who have survivors who show their scars, who have survivors who show their numbers, who have survivors who show their pictures, who have survivors who show the reality, pain, suffering, slaughter, murder, atrocities that took place throughout those years known as the Holocaust. You are now going to witness one of those people, one of those millions that lived, that will testify for the 6 million that was slaughtered and treated like cattle. You're going to listen to one witness tell his story, Mr. Shmuel Beller, and to say what happened to him, as thousands and thousands have come forth and told their story. 6 million Kedoshim, 6 million sacrifices. Yet there are so many miracles that are walking around today. The head of households of tens and hundreds of Jewish children that are keeping Torah mitzvahs. The greatest testimony that God made sure to save so many and restore the Torah, the Yiddishkeit, and the pride of Jews all over the world. I wish I could say sit back and enjoy, but no, it's listen carefully, to learn about the enemies of the Jewish people, to learn about the trials and tribulations that we have gone through. As we say in the Haggadah, it's bechol dor v'dor, in every generation. There are those who stand up to harm us, to hurt us, to destroy us. And yet, we are still here. God comes through every time. He does save us. He does bring us and bring us for better times, which we in fact look forward to. The celebrating of this day of the 9th of Av is to remember what took place in the past. But also, as the Talmud tells us, this will be a holiday, a great holiday, a holiday that we will have the rebuilding of the third Beis HaMikdash, the third holy sanctuary in Jerusalem very soon in our day.
My name is Shmuel Beller. I was born in the town of Auschwitz, was called Auschwitzin, in the Polish called it Oświęcim.
What was your father's name?
My father, Herman, and was Tzvi.
Beller.
Bella, yeah.
What was your mother's name?
Chava.
Her maiden name?
Goldstein. My Zaide was a Chusheva in the town, very Chusheva Yid, and had such a long beard. And then he had a little a business with syrup, syrup. There was a manufacturer there, his name was Haberfeld. He manufactured the syrup, and he was the distributor. He bought from me, he was a distributor. He was very well to do, very ungenehmer Mensch. He was the head for the Swedish Agudel Noshpitzin, which was right across the street from the shul, from the shul on Shabbos, but much bigger. This. He was a Yid, got up early in the morning. He made sure that the Yid come early in the morning, that the shul is warm, coal and wood was put up, and he made sure that he was always asking.
What was his name?
Heinrich Goldstein. Then I had our uncle Avrom Friedman, who was also a Belzer Chusid, and also a big asking, but he was a rich man already. He was a rich man. My family was not. My father was a hosierer, what we call here a custom peddler. Now I'll tell you what it was. Our town was mostly of the Jews. The Parnusse came from peddling. Running peddling, not far from us, about 40 kilometers, was a town Katowice. A little bit, about 20 miles away from there, was villages near the German border. In these villages lived mostly Germans. They were Germans, but they lived on the Polish side. So they went every day passed by, crossing to the border and worked on the German side, and they made a lot of money. So the Jews from our town went to do business with them. They had money, so they went and they collect every week. Whatever they needed, they bought them fabric or clothes or whatever they needed, and they collected money on consignment. And that's what they made the profits. This was mostly of our town, the Parnusse from the people here.
So how many siblings did you have before the
I
war?
have a brother and a sister. Our brother was about when the war broke out, he was about. Our sister was about 5 years old, and my brother was about 10 years old.
And you were?
I was 12 years old, exactly when the war broke out.
So how many Jews lived in Auschwitz?
About 5,000 Jews before the war.
Who was the rabbi?
Bombach. I think his son or somebody was in America, survived. Also, we had a Sanz Reinikel there as a Rebbe there, but I forgot the name. And then we had Rabbi Luzer Auschwitziner there. Had you heard of him? He went to Eretz Yisrael, and then maybe 2 months, he went back to whenever he was geharged. But im Gebet, he shouldn't go, so he has to go back to the people.
So as a child, you went to Cheder, Talmud Torah in Auschwitz?
Yeah. It was a big Talmud Torah like this. We had maybe 10 boys in Bar Rebbe, that's all.
How come? But there was a lot of Jews.
No, I lived on the other side of the water. It was Sossatel. In the town, they had the bigger yeshivas now. Also not so big, 20, 30 people. But this was a small. We lived, not too many families on this side. So we had a shul there, and we had a Rebbe with a belfer. He was still young, But then when I got older, just when the war broke out, I went across the water. There was the Radomsky yeshiva already. But I didn't last longer, maybe a month I was there, that's all, because the war was already broke out. I was 12 years old when the war broke out. Within a month, September 1, 1939, the Germans, when the war broke out, they broke through the borders within hours they were in my town. They came into the town with the double motorcycles, with the open jeeps, and immediately they started. We had a Kultusgemeinde, so they went to the Kultusgemeinde and they gave them all orders from the Jews. It started within a day or two, the whole thing. What they all wanted, first of all, they wanted from the government, Jewish government, they should give them X amount of money. Then they started, the Jews had their stores, few stores, there are not too many stores. Within 2-3 weeks after the Jews had to go out from the stores. Within a half a year later, the Jews had to move out from their apartments, and in the cellars and the basements, they used the Poles. They took over the Jewish apartments, and the Jews had to go down down in the basements to the apartments. This went on for about a year and a half, up almost 2 years. They took the Jewish men to work either way there in the camp. What was this was a camp for the military, where they were stationed there. So they had to start working whatever the Germans asked there, building the whatever there, and other works were there. And also, it was all the way on the beginning yet, they had there a small crematorium. And the men that were working there, because every day a few trucks went there with the men, able men went into the camps to work there. So obviously they killed a few of them. And there was already a small crematorium. The men were burnt in the air, and the ashes were sent to the families in our town. They had to pay for the ashes, a little box of ashes, 20 zlotys. Then this went on. My father was taken away to a camp, to a forced labor camp. And I remained with my mother, Ella Sholem, my brother's sister. The orders came from there to move us. First, they moved us to Benjin and Sosnowiec. They were from the villages and the small towns around my town. We were sent to these two places there. And the Jews in Benjin, Sosnowiec, had to take us in their apartments where we lived there. There was already rationings on. And I, as a young boy, my father was gone already. Food was scarce. So the Jewish Kultusgemeinde had orders from the Germany to send people to work. They needed to work in the town and also in their homes and whatever else they needed. So as a young boy, I worked for them. What I did in the morning, there was two brothers, Germans. They had a factory of manufacturing clothes for the military, German military. So I worked in the morning. In the morning, I worked in the homes. I was cleaning the homes. I was logging up water and coal. They lived on the 4th floor, and I had to bring it. There was no water in the houses or heating, so I had to bring it all up and do all the work, clean the homes and everything. And this I did. This I did in the afternoon. In the mornings, I worked in the factory by these two brothers. I had it pretty good. I was able to get some extra food because the women were not so bad, and when I finished work, all the leftovers, whatever, they gave it to me. So I was able to bring it home to my mother. This lasted till beginning of 1943. I did something which was innocently and was well punished for it. What happened is when I worked for these two brothers, so one of the brothers was a very bad guy, very bad. The other one was very decent. He told me go across the street was a lumber yard and ask the man for a certain tool. When I went over there and I asked him for this tool, he told me, go back and tell your boss, I'm not here. Little did I know, when I was talking to him, he was seeing me speaking to him. He was looking through the window. When I came back, he started beating me up, closed the door. Unbelievable. I was bleeding all over. I was there in the ghetto, so I had it pretty good before. Here, what happened is he gave an order to the Kultusgemeinde, they should send me away immediately to Auschwitz. Auschwitz is to me be killed and burned. When I found it out that I had somebody in the government, the Jewish government there, he told me this, I went into hiding. I was in hiding for 2 days. They took my mother away as a mashkin, and they wouldn't release her until I give myself up. I found this out. I had no brayer. I gave myself up. When I left to give myself up, I had a little sister, about 5 years old. She was running after me, and she was crying, don't go away, don't go away, don't go away. I said, Lola, I have to go. Mommy is coming back home. Now, in these 2 days, when I was supposed to go, be sent to Auschwitz. So this transport went away because I was in hiding 2 days. When I gave myself up, I came out from there. The transport was gone already. However, I was supposed to be sent away. But since this transport was gone, was another transport which they collected Jews to go to Zwangsarbeitslager. So I was sent with the group to be to the forced labor camps. Because of this, that I was holed up for the 2 days in hiding, I survived. By the way, they already had before taken Jews to this labor camp. Every week, the Jewish government had to give them 2,000 able men to work. Now, Benjamin Sosovce were about 35,000 Jewish people in each town. So there were quite a few weeks where they were able to give them this amount of people there. My mother remained in the ghetto there, and all connection, I was cut off. I was away to a camp. They sent me to a forced labor camp. I come to the camp, so we get out, they start asking questions. Are you any tradesman? Do you know any trades? Do you know any carpentry? Little did I know that I didn't know. I was a young boy. I didn't know nothing of this kind. I told them no. So they put me to very hard labor work, very hard. I was building highways and things, very, very, and, watched over with the German, and anybody who didn't work the way they wanted was beaten up on the spot. This lasted about 5-6 months. Then they moved us to another camp. And moved us to another camp. We had to change our clothes. And they were, by the way, when we we changed our clothes, we got other clothes. We didn't know where this clothes is coming. So we found out later that this clothes were the suits and everything, shirts and everything, from people that went to Auschwitz. And they were killed there. So they sent this cloth to the camps. So the people that worked in the camps were able to change their clothes. They were afraid that perhaps we have hiding something in our clothes there. So they wanted always, every camp that we camped, we had to change our clothes. And we had to take the cold showers, they called them 1,000. And they were very, very, it was cold, in cold water, it was very, very harsh. I stood in this camp for also another couple months, and then they sent me to another camp. In this camp also a couple months, do the same type of work. However, this time, something I had very bad experience. I was put to work with two other boys, two Jewish boys, and two Russian PWs. And we worked with a German master. He was a very big Russia, big anti-Semite. And he worked us to death. Mamish, we couldn't survive there. So one time we picked up a pipe, a very, very heavy pipe, because they were building there a factory for certain gases or whatever it was, I don't know. There were heavy pipes, very thick. And we had to drag them from where they were to bring him to the building and then to log him up and start to install them there. How we were able to take it up, we picked up the four people we picked up, two PWs and we two boys. So the German master was a very big Russia, took away the two PWs and we had to carry it. How we were able to carry this maybe 50 or 100 meters, I don't know, but we got there. We were not able to bring it up, pick it up high to install it. However, the time was late already for the day. We had to go back to camp. Next day, as usual, every day we had to report to the master and to the German master, to the chief engineer, and he gave us work. His name was Obermeister Schäfer. He was the chief of the whole area there, of the whole huge place it was. And we were lucky to work under him because he was an exceptionally fine man, a German top engineer, but he was extremely a very fine man. He was so, you could see in his heart that his heart is crying for what we've gone through. We had access to him. He told us whenever you need something or you're not satisfied, come to me and I'll try to help you. So I went over with order in the morning before we started to work. We went over to this master and we told him what happened yesterday. It's impossible to work with me. He's going to kill us. So he told me in German, says, "Haben Sie keine Angst? Don't be afraid. Gehen Sie mal hin dort. Don't go anymore to him. Kommen Sie mal hier. Come over here to me." In the morning we went over to him. He says, "Gehen Sie mal hier to the building. Go over to the building. Klappen Sie zusammen alle Schrauben und alle put you and the other guy. We should take together all the screws and all the parts that fall out from the building that's fallen down, and keep everything in order there. Make sure everything's nice and clean. This should be your job." And then he told us what our many was. if you don't know what to do, you finish for the day, hide. They were use big pipes, and was dark. They were building it. So I said, go over, hide behind the pipes till the time comes that you have to go back to camp. Very fine German. Mamish Malach he was. He helped us a lot. Whatever we had any problems, he solved them right away for us. He said, don't be afraid, come over to me whenever. He was the top, and the top of the whole area was a top engineer. And this, as I told you before, we changed our cloth, and I also got a new cloth, different clothes from people who were sent to Auschwitz, who were killed there. So one day, as I worked on the Baustelle, I took off my jacket, and by taking off my jacket, I noted by the sleeve, one part is stiff and the other one is soft. I didn't know why it was like different from all other. So I didn't want to open it there while on the Baustelle. They shouldn't see me, the Germans. So when we came back to camp, I took a knife and I tried to open it up slowly. You know what I found? I found a $50 bill there. Now you ask, where does a $50 bill get in there, right? Probably. I said, probably. It was true, probably. As we changed the clothes each time, these boys were killed in Auschwitz. So the clothes came in to us to change it. So probably one of the mothers that gave us sewing for one of the boys says, if ever you survive, you come in, you should know you have their money, should be able, maybe help you to survive. Now, I couldn't do much with this money. I wasn't able to show it to the Germans because they would ask me where to get the money. They wouldn't believe me. They would kill me. So while I worked on the Baustelle, I worked with two Goyim Poles, and I told them, look, I found it. I didn't tell my jacket, I found it, and give me some bread for it. So he says, he wanted to give me a bread, one bread. I said, so much money, give me something more. So he gave me 2 breads. For me, this was a great thing because, hunger is no limit. Starvation is no limit. How much you can, what you can take a lot for starvation. Okay, this lasted a few months, and then we got orders to move to another camp. However, this time already, we moved from a Zwangsarbeitslager, which was civilian clothes with cutouts, Star of David, to the regular Häftling clothes, which was this striped clothes with the round heads with the stripes. It was called concentration camp. It was called concentration camp of Blechhammer. This was part of Auschwitz. Again, we came in there. We were asked again questions. What do you work? What kind of work? What do you know? I kept to what I said before, that I'm a metallarbeiter. And I was put to work as a metal worker. Got up every morning, early in the morning. Was already, that time was a few thousand of us. It was maybe 5, 6, maybe 10 commanders, 200 people, I don't know how many, maybe more. And each commander had a kappa and 4 arbeiters. A kappa had a whole group of a few hundred of us. He was in charge. And the 4 arbeiter he had a group of anyway 20 to 50 people, which they worked in a certain areas. This one area, one type of work, the other type. I was put to work already since I already knew what to say, with the easier type of work, which is metal work here. And we walked every morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, we had to get up, They gave us a portion of bread with coffee, black coffee, and this was for the day. In the evening, came back home, the soup, whatever it was, and the black coffee, that was for the day. No middle day food or anything. One day, when we worked there, one of our men, we had camelas. This was like the pushkas that you have to hear, whatever, peaches or whatever, big cans. So we put a string around it, made 2 holes, put a string around or a piece of wire. And this was, we had it for coffee, for everything, but this was the food. That's where we were drinking and the soups, whatever they gave us. So one day, one of our men, found on the Baustelle a piece of wire. It's probably this cord was broken or whatever. So he wanted to put it on, and he took it. Was noticed by a German engineer, and he told them, "Do you know what you did now?" He says, "No, you committed sabotage." So he tells them why. This wire that you took was supposed to be used for the war machine, and you took it for using for yourself. And he reported it to the Jewish man, the head of the group. He was the Vorarbeiter. He didn't work, he just watched us. He should report it to the German in camp. When he came back to camp, he went to the Lagerelster, was the head of the camp, the Jew, and he asked them, "What shall I do?" I had ordered to report it. He says, "Forget about it, don't say nothing. Hopefully it'll pass by." However, next morning, when we came back, this German asked the SS man, he says, "Was this case reported in the camp?" So he says, "No, I didn't hear anything about it." So when we got back into camp, this man was taken out from the group, and he was beaten up murderously. Beaten is no way. I mean, they beat him to death, mamish to death. He was bleeding all over, and they put him in a little closed chamber where he lay there till completely he passed out. In this camp we were also not long. There was head of the camp was Zellinger, and then they moved us to concentration camp. Told you already, concentration camp, and in the concentration camp we changed for the uniforms, and it was already, we worked with big groups. We had already a couple of hundred people in a group, and there was a couple in Vorarbeiters. Every group of 50 had a Vorarbeiter, and a couple had a group of about 300 people, 500 people. And that's continued every day we went out to work. This lasted 1944 till the end of 1944. By the way, in this camp we had hangings. Few people were hung. Almost every second week or so, people were hung. One time there were a brother and a sister in the camp. The sister worked in the laundry where she washed in the kitchen or whatever. The sister had to watch how her brother's being hung. So in this camp, we worked this were hard work. However, since I was already a mechanic, I had a little easier.
Now, was you telling me that in the concentration camp, Blechama?
Yes.
That's where you got tattooed.
Right.
Right. Can you show us the tattoo? What is the number?
184805. December of the month of this year, 1944, orders came to move us. What happened? The Allies closed in, but from our side was not the Americans, there was the Russians. They were already near Auschwitz already there at that time. I found out later. I met a man that worked in the Sonderkommando in Auschwitz. The Sonderkommando was when they took the people, came with the transports, and they brought them to the gas chambers. After they were killed, the Sonderkommando had to take them out from the gas chambers, take off all the clothes, take out all the valuables from them, whatever they had, look in their teeth, whether they have any gold teeth, and rip them out and put them into the ovens. And after the ovens, they had to take out the ashes. The ashes were distributed, I don't know where, but one place ashes was distributed, was like a little pound, a little water. Not very big, but was quite. So these ashes were put into this water. I have a picture from a man that was, an old man was brought up there also before going to the gas chambers. He was around this area there by the gas chambers. So he wanted to drink some water. So he saw this pound with water. So he went over, had a little can, he picked up the water. Little did he know that he's drinking the water with the ashes from dead people. Very soon later, they were taken to the gas chambers and killed. All the cloth, what they wore, any belongings that they had with them, before they went into the gas chamber, had to leave it outside. After this was taken care by our men and women that worked there, and whatever they had to do with this, they looked for valuables mostly, and the rest was piled up, big piles of all the stuff there. Some were given to the people that come in to the concentration camp where they need certain ties, but very little. From there, we started in December of 1944. Orders came to move us because the Russians were coming close. We start going. Now, they opened up the magazine. We opened it up actually because the Germans were busy with themselves trying to find out the way how to escape. So I went in the magazine, whatever I found there, but not much anymore because it was taken away. However, I found a pair of leather shoes and a couple of pair of socks. Now, these leather shoes saved my life because before I had wood shoes, and the wood shoes were on top were fabric, and the bottom was about 2 inches thick wood. And you start going with this on the snow, you go a little bit, it piles up, he has to stop. And while we were walking with the snow, anybody was bound down or fell down, was shot on the spot, was very dangerous. Even to bend down, it was very dangerous. So I, by miracle, found a pair of leather shoes, and this saved my life. Because what happened is, with leather shoes, you could at least go every night, every time, everything was wet. You know, my socks were wet, my shoes were wet. So we slept every night, we slept in the barns. So at night when I slept in the barns, I took off my shoes and my socks. So I had 3 pairs of socks. I tied them around on my feet and on my and at night I slept with them, so they dried out a little bit. And that's how we were able to change him around. Then we started the Death March. The Death March was, unbelievable. People were falling and getting killed. Went out for a couple of months, we went on this Death March.
For how long?
For 2 months at least. Not the end one, this is just one part of it. 2 months at least. So we stopped in this camp, was called Großrosen. I told you about the Großrosen before, no? Großrosen was a camp. This is worse than anything I can describe. I'll explain you. We had to get up very early in the morning, and we had to stay on an appel. And we still a line up, a few thousand people. We were not able to move. We were not able to sit down because, the Germans passed by. Anybody that saw bending down, whatever, either they shot him or they beat him up. Now, everybody was afraid to do that. We're staying from early morning till late at night. Now, however, we were able to get to the little snow. How? Because they were scared. The Germans watching us were not so close to each other. So we were maybe sometimes 200 meters apart. So when they came close, we were able to bend down a little bit, pick up a little snow, But whoever was caught was beaten or shot.
Pick up the snow for what?
To take a little more out to eat. We didn't have any food. We didn't, it's a little bit to stay from early morning to late at night. You couldn't urinate. You couldn't do nothing. You had to watch. You should be able to when they don't watch you. Otherwise, you'd be beaten or shot to death. I'm not telling you a story. This is what I lived through. Then, after we wound up in a camp, Großrosen, they moved us out because this was a transient, and put us again on a cattle train, filled up the cattle trains, and they gave us a bread. It was closed. We didn't know where we were going, whatever again. We go and go and go and go. Days and days, we didn't know what's happening. No food, no nothing. People dying, no food. Finally, one day, the American, we arrived in Weimar, was near Buchenwald. Well, I didn't know what's happened that time because I was closed up. But we were bombed by American or British planes. And the Germans, as we were bombed, they were running. But what they did, they opened up the doors. We were closed. We couldn't open up the doors. We were, whatever reason, I don't know what. Everybody ran out from us. The German went in the bunker side, and we didn't go. Went into the houses to see if we could find any food. I went in a house with a few other guys, but by the time I came, everything food was gone already. So I noticed that in a corner there is a box with hard sugar. I took this box of hard sugar. At least this helped me a little bit. We wound up in Buchenwald. We had a short time. And then it started again. They put us on the trains, on the cattle trains. Again, we don't know where we're going. Wound up maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, I don't know. Same thing, no food, people were dying, everything same, all the same thing. One time they opened up the wagons to give us a little air. So I went out, I found grass, I ate grass, I want you to know. I ate grass. Next time, a few days later, they opened up again. I found a skin of potatoes. I ate skin. There was not a drop to eat, nothing to drink, nothing. Finally, we wound up in another camp. This camp was already a camp that we were able to work. We got our rations. We were already halfway through something we had.
What was the name of this camp?
I don't remember this camp. This is the only one I don't remember. Because this was at the end of the war already. and we were a short time there, maybe 4 or 5 weeks, maybe 2 months, not more, definitely not more than. So I worked in this camp, and one day we worked there, we were digging, so we found a dead cow. No, so, everybody was around working in this area. The German didn't watch us so because he's an assistant. We went, everybody would cut pieces of meat and we put it behind, and then they tried to take it home to the camp to eat it. But here I had something very, very bad what happened to me. I worked with a German engineer that time, a welder, and I worked with him on a welding machine. I was alone, a Jew only alone, and the German. I found 2 potatoes on the ground. These 2 potatoes, means a lot. I took the potatoes and I started to put on the welding machine, and not knowing where it's coming, I get a zest in the back in my head, beaten up with a piece of wood. Unbelievable. I was bleeding, my head blown up, everything. And then he threw me out. There was a little wood there. He threw me out there. He closed the door. And I couldn't get out of there again. I was beaten up murderously. To such a degree, so finally he opened up the door and he threw me out. There was a hill going down. There was a little stream going by. I went down and I washed myself up. Now, I was bleeding. Now, to go back with the head like this to camp, and the Germans would see it, they would ask questions. So I had my friends around me, and they were, covering up for me. The Germans should not see me, or they put me in the middle where 5 people in a line. Or with the middle, they should not notice me, they am so blown up. And then we back to camp. They took care of me, my friends.
Why were you afraid that they would see that you were beaten up?
Because they would ask questions what I did. And I committed sabotage, and they would shoot me. There was a sabotage. I was not supposed to use this for potatoes. It was the war machine again. That's why they killed the other men there. Very careful to be there. So we wound up in this camp, and after a short time, maybe 2 or 3 months, and the camp was already good because at least we got our portions. We went out to work. We were not locked up like this. We put on the trains, and the trains were going a few days, maybe a week. I don't know how long. Maybe 2 weeks, but not much longer. And suddenly the train stopped. We didn't know what's happening. I had no idea whatsoever. One day the train, 1 day, 2 days, the train stopped, 3 days. Suddenly, the doors open up. 2 American soldiers open up the doors. They start yelling, "Come out, you're free, you're free, you're free," they're yelling. "You're free." We know what free means. But we understood already. Immediately they brought the Red Cross and they told those helpers to come out of whoever was able. Whoever was able to come out, they told us there was a wagon, and the end was a wagon full with food from the Red Cross. All kind of food, even chocolates, margarine, salami, bread, full was with that. They didn't give us a stitch. They lined up the Germans in a line, were watching us, and we went on over to the whoever was able went over to the and collected, took whatever he wanted to take. Was plenty food there. No, what happened? Some of us took this food and ate too much maybe. We got sick, and some of us died. I also ate it, but what happened to me? I had a French boy from France, a boy my age, and born from Poland. We kept up together. We were able to get into any German house. They had to let us in to sleep there and to give us food and everything. So we went in there. I happened to go into a doctor. You know, I ate this, I immediately got cramps. I was very sick. I didn't know what's happening with me. So they called the doctor, and the doctor came down, he gave me some pills, but it didn't help. So they called the American Red Cross. My friend went out running out to the soldiers, and they took me to the hospital. And that time they took me in Philadelphia to the hospital.
So this place was where they opened the cattle cars.
Yeah.
And the Americans, that was in where was it?
Philadelphia.
Now you were saying that they lined up the German soldiers.
Right.
Why did they line them up?
They had those who were watching us. They lined up, and they were watching. They told me and the other boys that we were passing by, go do. He gave me a gun. Says, go do whatever you want. Well, we could have shot the Germans and do anything. Nobody did anything.
How come?
Our mind was to go to find a piece of bread. We had no mind of doing anything. We were so tumult. We were so we didn't know what's happening. We tasted a drop of freedom. You know what it means? It's the Ein Shah. You can imagine what it means. We had no thinking of any other thing. We have food. We have all the food that we want, and good food and everything. We didn't have it for years. So yeah, we didn't have time. The Germans stayed there. I could have done anything. I didn't know. My friends, nobody went over to touch them. But they took America took care on them already.
So there were no prisoners like you that actually took a gun.
No. You know, we were so dehumanized, we were so submerged that our mind was not to do anything but to find this food. Food was the main thing, was the little food.
Now, how come the Red Cross didn't protect and watch that people shouldn't overeat?
This is a mistake they made. They opened up the wagons, and people were running. Not only this, they told us, go take whatever you want. No, it was a mistake they did. A lot of people died right away. I was critical at that time already. Next day, they took me to the hospital there. The American soldiers, the hospital was already a hospital taken care by German nurses, German doctors. Well, clean everything. They cleaned us up there too. There was an American Lieutenant Smith, who was his name, a Jew, and he was watching over us with the American soldiers. Were constantly in the corridors. There was two doors away from me was the Klosterberg Rebbe. I did not know who he is. I was away 5 years. In 8 months, I was away. I was out completely from Yiddishkeit, completely. To such a degree, I'll tell you later, that I didn't want to know nothing. My mind was freedom. You run out, you could do whatever you want. It's unbelievable. You can't describe what freedom meant. And food, you had food, all that you wanted, and more than you wanted, too much. So I got very sick. The same day, they took me to the hospital, and I was in the hospital there about 3 months. I got typhus, very critical I was, but Baruch Hashem, I survived that time. The Klosterberger Rebbe was there 2 rooms away from me. There was Lieutenant Smith. He made the doctors and the nurses. He told them, he found out who the Rebbe is. He told them, I keep you personally, ich halte persönlich verantwortlich for the Rabbiner. I heard it saying it. So we were there. I was there about 4 months in the hospital. Then they took us to the Camp Fernwald. And this Camp Fernwald was already a camp, We had the kitchen there. We had the Kolzum Rebbe got there already, and what kashers and everything was. So I was completely out of religion. I was put in a room. We were put with 10 in a room. There were bunk beds, 10 or 12 in a room. I happened to put in with 9 Hungarian boys. I was only boy from Poland. Others were probably all Polish boys, or all Hungarian boys, whatever. These Hungarian boys, they were away only tops 8 months from Hungary. They were all religious, they were all still, they knew everything. I, on the other hand, I didn't forget, I knew, I remembered, but I didn't want to know anything about it. And I was with them. After I came out from the hospital, I was with them. And they were treating me nice, they were talking to me, and they were trying to convince me I should put on tefillin, I should daven, I should... On the other hand, I told them, look, I had enough, I don't want to know about anything. You know, but they were bothering me, they wouldn't let me go. I brought in trefus to their room, you know, they wouldn't let me go. I wanted to get away from there was no room in all that place. They took me one day, while I was outside in the front of the building, they surrounded me, a group surrounded me. I don't know, 10, 12 boys made a circle around me, and they wouldn't let me out. They wouldn't let me go. I was eating a trefus sandwich and said, Schmiel, waarvoor weg den trefus sandwich? Waarvoor weg the sandwich? Yeah, I was looking, was visiting, leave me alone. Anyway, they put so much pressure on me, these boys, that something went into my head that says, after all, where I come from, I was born in a Jewish home, in a frum home. What am I doing? I threw it away. Immediately they took me to the Rebbe. The Rebbe took me in, he spoke to me. He put me in the yeshiva. He gave some of the Talmidim there to watch over me and to learn with me. You heard Rav Margulis, Lipa Margulis from Torah Tamima. He put him in charge of me, to watch over me and to learn with me. And this way I came back. I came slowly. It took a little time to come back. And then next year I was in 46, I think was, 46. I went, there was the kinder transport for the children transport under 20 years. So I went with the kinder transport to America. At that time, the Klausburg Rebbe Zechoin Lebruch was already here in America. He already made a few trips back and forth to help with the joint to bring food, whatever good stuff in Sfurim for the yeshiva there. So they brought me into, at this time was on U Street, lived a family, Zhupnik, Nutola Zhupnik, you know him? Okay, we came into his house, the Rebbe was there in his house, and this Mr. Zhupnik prepared us food, unbelievable. We didn't need such food for who knows how long. And that time was Rabbi from the Shiva Brooklyn, Rabbi, he took us, he brought us to the closing with Rebbe there, and right away he took us out from there, from the home there, and he brought us in here, and we were put up with a family, and the Rebbe opened up the yeshiva. There was on Lee Avenue, on top of Yizkor, which there was, the Sons of Clothes was at that time. And there we opened up a yeshiva, and I was there from the first Talmidim there. Was Ashi Nussitzweig Zechoin Lebruch, Chamalta Lefkovich, Chamalta Roth, and then a couple of years later came the one very famous, very big Tam Chuchem, and also passed away from. He had on 49th and 50th Street on 14th Avenue. Forgot his name. He was from the first Talmidim. And so I wound up there. I learned in the yeshiva for 2 years. Then two groups from Sweden came in. They also learned in the yeshiva. We were on South 5th Street. The Moshe Rebbe was across the street. We always used to go for Shalishidas there, for hearing the songs, the beautiful songs. Because the Rebbe, he went to Europe back and forth to take care on the Fernwald of the camp for the people they should have the yeshiva there and everything. So we wound it up in this yeshiva there. We have this rabbi, great Rosh Yeshiva we had that time. And I was there for 2 years. Then after, the table for money was, everybody's working. So I also went out from the yeshiva, the rabbi wouldn't let me, I didn't listen, I would have listened. How I am regretting it a lot. But Baruch Hashem, I regret it a lot. To this day. So I'm still constantly in touch. I was in touch with the Rebbe Zechroinebrucher. I'm still with the son here, not from Eretz Yisrael, but one here. They know me all, they both know me well. I'm constantly in touch with them. And I got married, I have a beautiful family. Baruch Hashem, my children, all Talmid Chachomim, my 2 sons, my son-in-law. My son is the principal of Yeshiva Spring Valley. Big time Mechuki is book in Shas. What Smicha from Rav Pam, the other one is also a big time Mechuki, he's an accountant. And Baruch Hashem, I brought a beautiful family, have grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Baruch Hashem, there's everybody showing Torah mitzvahs.
So how come, Taka, that these Hungarian boys that you mentioned before, they also suffered, but they suffered only for a few months?
Yeah.
So how come they were so strong with the Amina and Yiddishkeit?
Yes. Well, very simple. They didn't forget. I already forgot already. I didn't forget. I knew, but I went through so much that I want to know. After the I was already free with everything. I go through to do. I was with the boys, the Polish boys from Poland, Jewish boys. I was with friends. They were all. Everybody was free. I was the only one with them, So it wasn't easy. It took a couple months to get me back to religion.
Do you know why the Germans chose and picked Auschwitz to be the death camps and the lagers?
I don't know. I have no idea. But I don't think anybody knows the reason. But one thing I'll tell you. While I was young that time I must have been 14 years old. About 14 years old. Hitler Machshma made a very infamous speech, which all of the Jews that was running radio, we had everybody from the area came listen to the radio. But there was no radios like this. And in this speech, Hitler Yamach Shemoy said, it was just before America wanted to get into the war. Wenn einer von den nicht-europäischen Ländern zum Krieg gegen Deutschland zustellt, dann haben die Juden in Europa ausgespielt. Which it means, when one from the not European countries starts up with Germany in the war, then the Jews in Europe are played out. I heard the saying.
Now, when he said played out, what does that mean?
Killed. That's all. And what happened? In 1942, there was in Berlin a gathering of the hierarchy with Hitler, and they wanted to get rid of the Jews. But they sent out a boat, I don't know if you heard of it, about 400 Jews, and nobody wanted to take him in. You heard of it? So they gathered a conference near Berlin, and there were all Goebbels, Goering, Hitler, and Hess, and they decided, of killing all the Jews. Probably, I don't know, I wasn't there, but probably they selected the area of Auschwitz to start to build the crematoriums and so on. But Roosevelt, I say he could have saved a lot of Jews, not the Polish Jews, but the Hungarian Jews he could have saved, because they were going transport without stopping, and they were begging them, the Jewish Silver, the others, begging him, bomb them. He says he need them for the troops, he needs the airplanes. And then one after the other, the trains were going. They were all had to break out this. They wouldn't, because they were in the last month already. It was just a few months when they all the only Jews.
Now, when were these barracks, all these barracks, crematoriums
In Auschwitz,
and when were they built?
the barracks were there already, because there were military barracks before. However, the crematoriums were starting to build in 1942. The gas chambers in the crematorium. And then in the beginning of 92, end 1941 and 92, but they went very fast, because immediately they thought trains with people were going there.
Now, this big entrance with the railroad tracks going in
right.
to the camp, when was that built?
This was before the war. This was a military camp.
So how old were you when you were taken away from home, when you were sent to go to work?
Camp? I was about 14, 15 years old.
Do you know what happened to your father?
My father was taken away from the camp. I never heard of him. This is while I was still before the ghetto yet.
When you were still at home?
Yes.
He was taken away to...
A camp, I don't know.
Did you say goodbye to him? Did your mother and your brother, sister were able to say goodbye?
Yes.
So did you at any time find out what happened to your father?
I wasn't able to find out. One thing I do know, I had a neighbor who survived the war. And he told me that he met my mother, Shulam, almost to the end of the ghetto, before they cleaned out the ghetto from all the Jews they lived. And she told him, he met her, this was about July 1944. And he told her his name was Chaim Raber. He survived the war. He passed away not long ago. He has a beautiful family here. And he told me, he met my mother there, and she told me, if he ever finds me alive, to tell me this was her last days. Because this was the last transfer from the ghetto to go to Auschwitz. How she was able to stay there to the last moment, I don't know. Because this was the cleaning out of the ghetto.
So she told him to tell you what?
That this are her last days, she doesn't know what's going to happen with her.
So in Auschwitz, there was no ghetto?
No.
So where did they take the Jews from Auschwitz?
To Benjin. Benjin, Sosnaya. There were two towns close to each other with the villages in between. They were broken down villages, which they took all the Jews from the two towns and threw them into the Benjin ghettos there.
So, and apparently you believe that your younger brother and sister went with your mother to the ghetto.
It was the end. They went there. Where with my brother then? My mother and they were, because he saw them. Yeah.
And you don't know what happened to them, where they were taken?
I do know. I mean, from what the end was, I do know.
What do you know?
I know that this was the end, liquidating the town. You know, all the Buddha. You know what they did at the end? You know, there was the Jewish Kultusgemeinde. Now I wasn't there, but I was told. So they had the police, the Jewish police. The Jewish police did all the dirty work for them. They had to, day at night, they went into the homes, they put together the people, they take them out of the homes and put them to a holding place, and then they were sent away to Auschwitz. This to all the Jewish people. Now, I'll tell you a story. August 12, 1942 it was, I think, yeah. They told all the Jews that they have to come to a stadium. The German told it to the Yiddish Kultusgemeinde, they have to come to the stadium, and then they go through to stamp the passport. We had passports, we had to stamp there. So everybody went with the families, Now, I was left with my mother, Shalom, brother and sister. And there was the guy in Machshemoy, I'll show you the picture like this. See, this guy was there. There were people, we had to go through this guy. And he was pointing with the fingers up, one there. Here he is back to the home, and he is back to be sent away to Auschwitz. And then there was another area back to work. So he pointed with the fingers. And then the people had to go wherever he pointed out. Now the Jewish militia was all around on was a huge field, was around, and they made sure that wherever he says, wherever he points out, the people should go. Now, what happened is that, they sent a father one way and mother with child another way. So the children, the father tried to run back to the mother, and it was not them yelling and screaming, but the Jewish militia went in with this. They were beating, made the people go to the right places where they were told to go. This is a transport here where they already separated. Here's the men, women, and children here, and here the men that put away to work, to put into labor camps. These men were going through to the gas chambers. These people here.
But this was already in Auschwitz.
Was this Auschwitz? Yeah. This is the entrance from Auschwitz.
Yes.
It's the entrance from Auschwitz.
Now, well, you said before that the Jews were collected in that stadium. Where's that stadium?
In Auschwitz was. No, this was in Benji. In Benji, they had the big stadium where they played football. They made all the Jews come, and they had to go through this Yimach Shemoinik, this guy. They had to go through, and he pointed out his finger to right and to left. This guy.
That was in Benjamin.
That was in Benjamin, yeah. They did the same thing. They did the Sosnovyets, but at this time they were not yet together in the ghetto. It was before. And
now, if your family and the other Jews that lived in Auschwitz, how come it took them so long for them to get to the crematoriums? They were collecting Jews from all over Europe and bringing them to the...
They took us from Auschwitz and brought it to Benji. It was also in the early 1941, 42. That was still early, before the crematoriums were still built. They started later, This started actually when the Americans decided to go into the war, when all the last punch from the Germans came.
Now, can you name me the list of concentration camps where you were, forced labor camps?
I was Sachau, forced labor camps. Sackenheim, yeah. This was forced labor camp.
What else?
I was in a concentration camp, Blechhammer, Buchenwald, Groß-Rosen. Those were concentration camps.
Groß-Rosen?
Yeah. This was when we went through on the Death March. We were a short time there, though. We were in Blechhammer. We were there about 8 months or so.
Did you also witness through all these camps, did you witness when they took out people to shoot them?
Yes.
And why would they do that?
Why would they hang people for no reason at all? For no reason at all. No reason at all.
And you had to witness that and to watch it.
Yes. You know, almost, I wouldn't say, every few weeks there was hanging in our camp. Why? For nothing. I'll tell you one story what happened. There was a father and a son in the camp. Whatever, I don't know, the father did something, whatever, I don't know. Came orders to hang the father. The son was there. They made the son, brought him up to the gallows with the father, and they made the son kick the stool. The son was crying and yelling, he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do it, he was beaten. He was staying right next to his father when his father was noose around him. He didn't want to do it. Finally, his father gave him order, I order you, as your father, do it. Finally did, he was crying, never. Yeah, I can't imagine a son hanging his father. Then was, another time was hanging, there was another hanging there. Well, quite often hanging was quite up for no reason at all. It was a brother and sister in camp. So the brother was, for whatever reason, he was hung. The sister was standing, watching how he was hung. One time a man was beaten almost to death, and a relative of his was staying there and watching it, how he was beaten to death, mamish beaten to death. So
how could you just witness this? How could you see all this and remain sane?
And remain sane? I don't know. I tell you something. I tell you, this will give you the answer of everything. They dehumanize us to such a degree. Now here, you leave a parent, you leave a father, you go and you start, and you live in hunger, constantly hunger. So our aim, our thought was only on the food or bread. That was only taught. They dehumanized to such a degree that nothing else existed. I think a lot of this. How did I do this? But that's what actually happened. We're so dehumanized. The hungers are so great. The urge for food was so great that we didn't think about nothing else. I mean, here you had a father, your mother. You don't cry. You don't do nothing. You worried that you shouldn't be beaten up or whatever. Here you only worry about yourself here, how to survive here. So it's unbelievable how they put us into such a mind of.
Now, through all this time that you went through these sorrows, did you at times think or miss your little baby sister, your younger brother?
I always do it. Up to this date. I remind myself, before I went to be sent away, my little sister was running after me. She said, Shmilek, don't go. I said, Lola, I have to go. Mommy will come home. Whenever I always think about it. Always think. This is in my mind, like it's script in my mind. Here I left my mother, my two little things there.
I recently saw, I think it was on YouTube, a film when you visited Auschwitz.
Right.
Tell us about that visit that you went back to visit Auschwitz.
I always wanted to go back, although I went a few times after this, but I wanted to say Kaddish there. It was so on my conscience, actually. So we visited Auschwitz, and we came out to Birkenau. It was Auschwitz, no, maybe Auschwitz. Birkenau, they weren't too close to each other. There was about that time when we came with the group 7-year Braids of Auschwitz, was about 3,000 people from all over the world. Spielberg was that time, and a few big guys were there. So I wanted to say Kaddish. I was mamish. I never was able. I was a few times before. I was never able to. I didn't have a minute to say Kaddish. So when we were there in a group in the hall, the big hall there, I asked some friends. I asked some people there. Some people that were with me there. I said, "Let's get together. I want to say Kaddish." So I start saying Kaddish. As I start saying Kaddish, people were coming from all over the side. I said Kaddish. I fell down. I took off my shoes. I was in the ship for a few minutes, which I was never able to do it before. I had hundreds of people around me. And everybody was, the press, everybody was coming, asking me questions and questions. They were all the press from all over the world, from all Europe was that time there.
So I really appreciate and I thank you for giving me your time.
Okay.
And I hope this will be put to use properly to educate our current generation and future generations.
I hope so.
You should never be forgotten.
Never be forgotten, and never come to anything close to it.
We are here in the Battery Park in front of the Museum of Jewish Heritage, where they have a cattle car on display. We will be asking a few questions to Mr. Samuel Beller, that actually was several times, more than once, transported in these cattle cars.
That's right.
Now, Mr. Beller, state your name.
My name is Samuel Beller, or Shmuel Beller. I was born in the town of Auschwitz. I lived about a kilometer away from the where all started. I saw in 1941 or 42 an open car passing by my street where I lived. The street was named Ulitza Legionov. This was the street that took you to the gas camp, to the concentration camps. And my street was the concentration camp, was the labor camp. However, Auschwitz had a town. There was a water going by there, was named Sola. And in the other side of the Sola, there was a Jewish town. The Jewish town was there, and the people mostly lived. The Jewish people over there. However, coming through the bridge, on the other side of the bridge, was also a small community of Jewish people, but there was not too many people there living. I lived, as you came off the bridge, you come to the street, you had to make a left, and the street would take you over to the barracks where the Polish military was, and the German later the German made it in what became Auschwitz, the concentration camp. This was the concentration camp, which was a labor camp. However, as you came up the bridge and you was going straight, it was Brzezinka called. Brzezinka, German gave it the name Birkenau. And this became what it was known as the camp where they built all the gas chambers, and they built all the destruction camps where they brought in the people from all over Europe, and where they put them to gas chambers, and they were destroying them, and they put them burnt. Now the reason why they built it over there is because this was a main railroad station. So it was a lot of
Tracks.
A lot of tracks was going there, and this is probably the reason why they built it there. However, this concentration camp, which was the labor camp, was not far away. Was on the other side from the area where this destruction camp was.
Now, as we're standing over here, do you recognize this car behind you?
After going through years of ghetto and Zwangsarbeitslagers, concentration camps, and finally we wind up in concentration camps. In these concentration camps, the previous camps, we wore civilian clothes with the Star of David cut out front and the back. However, as we arrived in this concentration camp, they took off all our clothes and they gave us these striped uniforms. The camp, which was called the Birkenau, it was a camp of destructions. There they brought in the people from all over Europe, where they brought in men, women, children, and they segregated able men to work. They took them to the concentration camp, which is also not far away from this area. They were put to work. The other people were sent to the gas chambers, and from there to the crematoriums where they were all killed. I was recently, last year I was in Auschwitz for a visit. I came by an area, there was a water tank, and I was shocked when I saw there. This was near the area where they burned the people, where they killed. All the ashes were thrown into this big area with water there. I couldn't take it. I was running around there, unbelievable. I was crying and yelling and everything possible.
Now, which was your first transport on a cattle car? From which camp?
This was from a camp. This was after we started the Death March. Although they started before yet, out from the ghetto, but they took us yet.
From which ghetto? From which ghetto?
It was Benjin Sosnowiec.
And from there you went by cattle car?
From there we went by cattle car to a camp, to a forced labor camp.
Now explain us how it was the journey in the cattle car.
Now I was in few places that they after walking the Death March, after coming out from the ghettos and for the other camp, we were put in cattle cars. Now the cattle cars were, as you see this cattle car, we were put in about packed, over 100 people maybe. We didn't know where we're going or what's happening. They gave us a head of bread, and that was all. And they closed the doors, and we were continuing going to nowhere. We didn't know. There was no window there. There was nothing. Just a little piece that you see there. People were laying there without food, without one on top of the other, and there were sick people, and there were sick people, and there was still people who were able to survive. and we didn't know where we were going. They put us in we're traveling and traveling. Suddenly the train stopped, and they opened up the doors. And they let us out a little bit in front. One time I came off the cattle train. I came out of the door. I found potato skins, and I found some grass that I haven't eaten for who knows how long. And I started, finally I got it. I was eating it. And all the food to eat, they didn't go. They just gave us one half a bread when we started the trip in the cattle train.
So you mentioned before that people got sick in the cattle cars.
People was sick, and when we stopped, they took out the people that were sick, and they killed them, and they dropped them off, and they wanted the dead people also, and the rest continued further on the trip.
Did some people die while in the cattle car?
That's why a lot of dead people there, which could. After all, we didn't have any food. We were going and going. We didn't know where we were going and how many days we were going. Everything was closed, so there was nothing to eat, and people died from sickness and from starvation.
So how many times were you transported in a cattle car?
I was transported. I was 3 times on the trip from different areas. One was when I went on the Dead March, and we stopped in Buchenwald. After walking for maybe 2 months, we walked in the bitter cold in winter, and I went up and stopped over in Buchenwald. A lot of people that were on their way were walking. They couldn't walk. They were shot and thrown aside because we didn't get any food. We passed by the houses because we went to the Dead March. We were able to run into a house because the Germans were very far apart. They were watching us. We were able to run into a house or into a store where we passed by, and the German women gave us. They didn't give us. We went to the whatever we saw there. We took to food to eat, whatever we were able to find.
So does this bring back any horrible memories?
Absolutely. This cattle train, as I said, we were full people, and we were all going and going, and we didn't know where we were going. However, you know, you got half a bread what they gave us, no other food, nothing at all. So people starved, and they were sick, and a lot died. So they stopped a few times on the way. We took them out, and they buried them, and we whoever was able to, alive, was able to continue on the trip. But in the train itself, it was very bad because, you know, stuffed up with so many people. We didn't know night or day, and no food. So we were laying there with all kind of people, sick people and dead people. So it was a miracle that whoever survived, it was a pure miracle.
Thank you very much.
I hope you had the opportunity to hear and learn. And many of these interviews were made by the Yizkor Foundation. And you will be hearing more and learning more about the difficulties and the trials and tribulations that many of these Jewish people, both men and women, true heroes, what they went through. And they're here to tell the story. Please support Yizkor Foundation and make sure to not only to watch yourselves, but make sure to have a friend. Make sure to see to it that others learn about some of the difficulties or some of the most darkest moments of the Jewish people in history.
אני מאמין באמונו של אמו בפי עשה מושיע